what's new with this model for 2022? That's interesting. It is a great package that anyone can enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Don, and today we're going to talk about the 2022 Can-Am Outlander 570 X MR. I'm going to do an overall review, and we're going to do a bit of a test drive. I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. Here we go. First off, let's talk about the color. I really like the color. This desert tan and the black bumpers and accents looks real sharp. It's not too flashy, and I think it's really going to appeal to a lot of people. Now let's start in the cockpit and the riding position. The seat is super comfy. The bars fit pretty good, but for me, I would rather have a small riser, and that might not be for everyone, but a number of people do find that the Can-Am handlebars do sit a little bit lower. Something else to note, with the Rad Relocate sitting out in front of you, your sight lines are still quite good. I like that. So what's new with this model for 2022? Not much has really changed over the last number of years for the 570 X MR except two things. Number one, it now has the intelligent throttle control, which gives you three modes. You have an eco mode, normal mode, and sport mode. Sport mode gives you 100% throttle response. It's very quick, it's very snappy. Normal gives you about 70%, and eco mode really slows down the throttle response, which is great for new inexperienced riders, or especially when you're loading and unloading or moving it in tight quarters and you don't want to accidentally give it too much throttle and run into something. The other big change is it comes with the Visco 4-lock. It has been a game changer for Can-Am that they started in 2021 on limited models, and they've now expanded it to all XMR models and a few other Outlanders as well. So let's talk about the engine. It's not actually a 570 engine. It's a 650 that's detuned down to 48 horsepower. So that's something that you might be able to unlock if you get into some aftermarket work. Something to consider. But power delivery, it's smooth, it's responsive, but it's not going to blow your hair back. It's really not going to do that. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's very manageable power. Okay, so we can do a quick comparison between this 570 model and the 650 Outlander X MR, which comes in a different chassis. There's a few subtle differences between the two. This chassis weighs 843 pounds. The bigger chassis weighs 874 pounds. So there's a bit of a weight difference there. That's something to consider. The wheelbase is exactly the same, 51 inches, so the turning radius is going to be exactly the same. The other difference between the two models is this. The 570 is 46 inches wide, which is pretty narrow. The 650 is 48.5 inches wide. It's a lot wider, but they both have the exact same ground clearance. That's interesting. Ground clearance is the amount of space between the wheels. That's basically what that boils down to. And if you're into off-trail mud riding, ground clearance is a big key factor. It's very important. The other main difference is the seat height. The 570 model comes in at about almost 2 inches shorter than the 650 and the other bigger chassis. So it's definitely going to fit riders of a smaller stature. It's definitely going to be a lot more comfortable. A lot easier to swing your leg over too. Let's talk about riding.
The suspension on this thing works really well. I'm really happy with it. It handles really nice. One of the big things with the handling is it has a skinny wide setup, meaning the tires on the front are narrower than the tires on the back. 9 wides in the front, 11 on the back. It makes handling a lot more precise. This thing turns like no problem to turn it right around. It would be, a great comparison would be to compare the turning radius of this with my Renegade. Yeah, that's something we could do another time.
Okay, let's talk about the engine and the power delivery. Let's be honest. The 570 at 48 horsepower, that's not going to blow your hair back when you hammer the throttle. But that's not what the purpose of this package is. The purpose of this model is to be able to get you a lightweight, easy to handle, easy to maneuver machine to get into the extreme terrain. And that's what it's all about. When it comes to the negatives of this machine, there's really only two that really stand out to me. Number one, it's a mud machine and it doesn't come with a winch. It makes no sense. So that's something you definitely have to add as an upgrade. The other negative is when it comes to protection. There's only a central skid plate and it's made out of cheap plastic. And I'm pretty sure most people are gonna end up breaking it. So that's another upgrade you're gonna wanna invest into as well.
So here's my thoughts on the 2022 Can-Am Outlander 570 X MR. It's a ton of fun. It really is. Like, this machine can fit so many different people, young and inexperienced riders or other riders that are just a little smaller stature, because this frame, the Outlander L chassis, it used to be called, the seat height is a little bit lower and the frame is a little smaller. It's actually a little bit narrower. So even with these 28-inch Mega Mayhems, which most people say, I haven't measured them yet, but real world measurement, they're more like about 27 inches. Because it's a little narrower, you're still gonna get pretty good ground clearance. The tire setup, they work really well in the snow. I'm really happy with them. It'll be a great test to see how they work in the mud, actually. The only real limitation with it is you'll run out of ground clearance when you get into the deeper ruts following the bigger machines. Who's this machine for? I would highly recommend this for a smaller rider, a newer, more inexperienced rider, which is exactly why I recommended this machine for my wife. She's a brand new rider and she's gonna be learning how to ride this thing. She's only had it out up and down the road a few times. But the skinny wide setup of the tires, 9 in the front, 11 in the back, it's fun to ride. It handles good. So even though it's an XMR, I would highly recommend this just for doing mostly trails, and you already have the rad relocated, so you don't have to worry about it getting full of mud, which really happens an awful lot. Overheating issues here in Canada, where you get a lot of mud. Even just driving on the trail, you get puddles and you get dust, and it just turns into a paste. And let me tell you, nothing is worse than having a ride interrupted by overheating issues. Nothing does. Nothing really does. So, you know, you could really look at comparing this to the 650. There's a big price difference, but really you're not getting a lot different other than the chassis. Because obviously this chassis can handle the weight of the engine. There's not really a big weight difference in the end. What's the big difference? You got a different bumper. I like this bumper. And you're just getting 2 headlights instead of 4. I mean, it's just really a look and comfort, because the 650 comes with the exact same tires and rims. The shocks might be a little bit different. The chassis is a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier. I think it's a win-win. My recommendations, this is a fun unit. I would totally recommend it for anyone, even if you're mostly just gonna trail ride. The power's not scary, but it's got the power there to get the job done, that's for sure.
Okay, so my overall thoughts on this machine. It is a great package that anyone can enjoy. It will take you places that you want to go and then some. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll definitely see you in the next one.